Hey, folks, welcome back to Crypto Heartbeat. This is a version 2 of an interview with Cece from Liquid Loans, the CEO. Welcome back to Crypto Heartbeat, man.
G'day, mate. How are you?
It's so great to have you back. It's so awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity to get an update on Liquid Loans. I almost feel like I can't handle how much winning is happening and the excitement that's in with the PulseChain, with PulseX, and now with Liquid Loans. And one of the things, I've spent a lot of time looking into Liquid Loans, and I'm a big fan of yours. You're the inspiration for my channel. Us old guys got to stick together here. But I love the fact that, to me, having your protocol on the PulseChain from close to day one is really core infrastructure for people. Because my buddies that were in, Bitcoin and Ethereum in the early days, they didn't have a way to pull value because they had to sell and lose their price appreciation for the future. And so tell us what's going on and what's the update.
Yeah, fantastic. And Matt, thank you. I think we're really excited, right? So obviously we've been working pretty hard at getting what we need to have resolved. And from a development point of view, we're well on the way to finalising. The challenges that we have is probably more to do with things that currently don't exist on PulseChain, and so the sort of things that I'm referring to would be, we're really excited, incidentally, about PulseX. We're really glad that that's been, that there is the sacrifice phase. One of the things, as you probably know, for any DeFi project is that you need to make price calls. So you need to know what's the price of Pulse, what's the price of USDL, how do we actually bring that information in that's important for us in terms of using the protocol itself. So the protocol relies on that information. And so there's different ways to address that. One way is to actually use a decentralized exchange. So we're really hoping that when we have a chance to look at the PulseX code, and I anticipate that Richard will, in time, perhaps run an audit on the code. Yeah. We'll have a look at that. We'll have an opportunity of integrating that in. So obviously, from our perspective, given that we're going to launch something that's immutable, whatever we do use has to be squeaky clean, right? So, and I have no doubt that that's going to happen. I guess the other dilemma that we have, and so people need to be aware that this protocol exists on other chains, right? So we're forking an existing protocol that exists on the Ethereum mainnet. All of them have been audited. The code generally is largely the same, but where they differ is predominantly where we're going to differ, and that is, where are you getting your price calls from? Yeah. And so on Ethereum, and I'll call it out, it's the Liquidity project, and I think most people know that. Yeah. They're using Oracle, an Oracle, which is Chainlink, and they're also using a backup Oracle called Trello. Now, there is some challenges here, and I won't bore you with all the detail, but the challenges are, and I know Richard has a really strong opinion on this, and my view is probably not as strong as Richard's, but I certainly understand where he's coming from. And that is that time-weighted average is probably a really solid way of doing it. However, if it's only coming from one exchange, that creates a risk in itself. On the flip side, if you're using, and I think his argument, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Richard's argument is the likes of Chainlink, for example, has multiple nodes providing feeds. And I think his argument is, hey, guys, if you're going to use something like that, just be mindful that some of these nodes are getting paid to deliver crap. So they're providing the wrong information, getting paid for that. I totally agree with him. That shouldn't be the case. These guys shouldn't be paid for that. However, my understanding of Chainlink is that it excludes that price anyway, right? So if you've got rubbish that's coming in, it does exclude them. So the outcome is a good outcome. Yeah. But how do you achieve that outcome is perhaps questionable. But we're working through that, and I honestly hope that PulseX will be a primary call for us, but we need to have some alternatives as well. So really excited about that. We're really happy with the way things are going. I think the other thing that I wanted to share with you specifically was around our sacrifice phase. It's coming. It's going to come, and it's coming soon. And I just want to make sure that people are ready. So there's a couple of things to bear in mind here, and that is, for the sacrifice phase, what we're asking people to do is you're going to make a political statement. And the statement that you're going to make relates to the use of centralized stablecoins. Okay. Personally, I don't like them. I don't like the fact that you potentially have fractionalized reserves There's question marks around some of the major fiat-backed stable coins. And whilst they're popular, there's always been this sort of question mark around how stable are they really, given that we're not really sure about the actual assets or the fiat that's backing them. And so the intent here is that whilst liquid loans is a lending protocol, we are minting a stable coin that's generated algorithmically. And as a consequence of that, we're backing that by Pulse. So Pulse is our collateral. And the mechanism that is being used will ensure that the stable coin remains pegged. And at the same time, your collateral, we all are familiar with Pulse. We know what Pulse is. We certainly will be using that as the only collateral source. So it's not like we're not throwing HEX into the mix. We're not using any other asset. It's just purely Pulse, and that makes it pure. And so from our point of view, we're asking people to sacrifice those stable coins. And through the protocol, whilst the loan tokens will be issued, you'll be able to mint an algorithmic stable coin that we feel is a hell of a lot better than the stuff that's around at the moment. Now, in terms of how the sacrifice phase is going to work, one of the things that, and all we want to acknowledge Richard's work, because we all know the guy's a genius, right? So, and the fact that he developed this mechanism, the sacrifice mechanism, all credit to him. He's such an innovator. I think you made the comment the other day. I was listening to the stream. He's an innovator, right? Yes. So this guy, he's the what did you call him?
Henry Ford.
The Henry Ford of crypto.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder how many guys would know about Henry Ford.
Right.
But having said that, I think I agree. He's an innovator. So he's developed a mechanism for the sacrifice phase that obviously he has tweaked a little bit for PulseX, but the mechanism's effectively the same. So there'll be a period where you'll benefit from early. So investing early, or not investing, but sacrificing early is actually a good outcome, because you'll get a higher point outcome if you sacrifice early. On the flip side, there's a degradation, or there's a bonding curve that happens after a period of time. And it's exactly the same mechanism. So sacrificing early and sacrificing a large amount provides you with a higher level multiplier. Yes. So none of that's different. And the reason we wanted to go down that path was, one, people are now familiar with it. They're very familiar with that mechanism. And we didn't see the need to change something that's obviously been working. Having said that, there is one tweak. And the tweak that we wanted to introduce for the sacrifice phase was, we honestly believe in delayed gratification, right? We like what HEX stands for. We're investors in HEX. We've delayed our gratification, and as a consequence, we'll benefit from that. Well, we want people that are sacrificing to potentially benefit from delaying their allocation of any future potential tokens that they may receive. And how does that work? It works very much like how it would work with HEX. The longer you delay, the greater the benefit that you get. So there could be up to a 2-time multiple for people that delay for 24 months. Wow. So how does that work? Every month after the initial launch, we'll receive 4%. So after month 1, there's an additional 4% that you'd receive. After month 12, effectively that's 48% that you'll receive. The only difference is on month 24, instead of 4%, you get 8%. So that rounds it up to, effectively, it's a 2-time X multiplier that you'll end up receiving. So from our point of view, it's a really, it's a good mechanism. It also means that, what we're hoping is people will look at this and say, you know what, I do want to receive some tokens on day 1. But I don't want to tie everything up that way. So right. They may decide to sacrifice a certain amount and exit out on day 1. Some in 6 months later, 12 months, 18 months, and reap the benefit of that. Well, and it also means that not everyone receives their tokens, and potentially it avoids any dumpage, right? So we are concerned with that as well.
Well, and you said, Richard's an innovator. That's innovative in my opinion. And if you think about it, anytime that you can incentivize stability, right? And especially in such a volatile sector as crypto, I think it's really, I admire it, because, you do have a community that is used to this idea of holding. And if you can provide incentive for them to hold, I mean, that's fantastic. That is an innovation in this process that Richard really defined, which is is so interesting with the sacrifice. Well, let me ask you this, and this is just my perspective, being a student of liquid loans and what you guys are doing and just seeing so much around the community, is this idea that, there's core infrastructure. And one of the things that Richard's building is an ecosystem, right? And he's touching all kinds of things. One thing he's not touching is the idea of being able to hold and pull value. And so to me, I've seen liquid loans as core infrastructure of the PulseChain. And I know that it gets into, just like when we were talking about calling the public function for PulseX buy and burn. Well, it's not possible. We can't do it right now. The technology limits it. Well, if you're going to pull price calls, you have to do it, right? You have to pull price calls if you're going to be able to do this kind of protocol. It may not be ideal. Everybody'd like everything to have, fewer attack vectors, but what seems like to me, what you're saying is, you can't really have things complete until you see one PulseX code, and we have essentially our final version, right before mainnet. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to know that we've got, if we're going to be relying on, and we are relying on that information, we need to do our due diligence and we need to make sure that it's going to work as intended. I have absolutely no doubt. And look, Richard has a track record. He delivers great projects. So I have no doubt that it's going to be a great project. And personally, I've invested significantly in PulseX as well. Yeah. And because I believe in it. Yeah. But we need to go through our due diligence to make sure that it's going to work for us and ultimately the community.
Right. And one of the things I really hope, I feel like, we've gone through so much in this community, and certainly the folks from the beginning have seen all the FUD and all the scammer stuff, and this community's been galvanized, right? And so when I look out into the community and I see people like Jesse, the pit boss, and I see yourself, and I see all these folks who have committed so much time and energy, not just with liquid loans, but have been in the community since the beginning, what I've been always excited about is that Hexicans and people in the community are being creative, right? And that we would support those who are being creative. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is that we all win together when we support each other. And I think that, asking great questions and contributing and being very, very thoughtful about things is important. But I'm a big proponent of, let's do our due diligence. And people like Brandon from Rags to Riches is the kind of guy who drills down hard on stuff, is that, we have to vet things, but we also have to support them, because that's the only way we win. And so I just don't want it to be one of these things, I'm a Richard Hart maximalist, right? Because I have a lot of trust in him. But I also know that what's going to make PulseChain successful is when it has all the right infrastructure and it has mass adoption. And to me, what this liquid loans protocol provides is, you give me hope that I'll never miss out on the price appreciation of Pulse. Yeah. Because I'm going to always hold it, and I'm going to over collateralize, and I'm going to be able to benefit from this. And to me, that's why it's such a core infrastructure.
Yeah. And on that point, have you, one of our community members, or one of our admins actually, his title is Haunted.
Yeah. I saw his strategy.
The haunted strategy. It's just
unbelievable.
I love it. And this guy's gone to so much effort to sort of create something that demonstrates the value that this will bring to the community, and without taking crazy risks, right? It's just, I think the buy pressure that will be created is just going to be phenomenal.
Well, you're right. I watched the video. So Magic Carpet Ride made a video on the haunted strategy. Okay. And so, you make content, I make content. It's not easy to put together a video of that complexity. And if you haven't seen that video, and I'd say to anybody watching this, you need to go to Magic Carpet Ride. You need to see the haunted strategy spelled out, because the amount of time and effort that he put into explaining it, even a guy like me could understand it. Yeah. And it really is exciting. And I think that's one thing that's interesting about new projects and new innovations. And then, these strategies, it's funny. I look back at the traditional financial market, and I think about all these guys with derivatives and all these guys in the trading desks and, dark pools and all this stuff. And of course, the guys in Wall Street have all the tricks of the trade. Well, this is the first time the tricks of the trade are in the public eye. So I think it really behooves us to learn some of these things, because this is what all the guys in the back rooms were doing. And that's how, Goldman Sachs and all these big boys made all this money, is they were smart and they understood how the system works. And now the system is out in the open, and we have an opportunity to learn that as non-hedge fund and non-Wall Street guys. And that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Look, it's interesting you say that. Just prior to us having a chat, like we meet with the team and different teams, right? So we've got a marketing team that we're working with, and you probably have seen Miyamoto or Matt. He's running our YouTube channel, right? So we've got a YouTube channel. I said to the guys, I love haunted strategy, but we kind of need to dumb it down, because people need to really understand the benefit of this. So I think you'll see, and I think this is scheduled for the weekend, but there will be an interview to break it down so that people really get to understand what this means. And I think what we're really hoping here is that people see that this protocol is going to help the Pulse community in general, because it's going to place so much buy pressure on Pulse. It'll just, I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful that people get it and start seeing the benefit of using it that way.
Well, you start thinking about PulseX mixed with liquid loans, and and then to me, this big, the thing that people, it's funny to kind of overlook, is the very nature of the system state and all of this attention that the system state and having copies are going to create for people. And so we look at all these internal tokenomics that are like, wow, this is deflationary, and we got buyback and burn, and now we got liquid loans and the haunted strategy. Let's also remember the fact that people over the next 2 years are going to be at a cocktail party talking to a friend, and they're going to say, hey, you got any crypto? And they're going to, well, yeah, I do. Because you have a copy on the Pulse chain and the price is par now. And they're like, what do you mean I have double my value? And that little explosion is going to happen over and over and over for people. And, and that's even outside of all of these strategies. So it is such an exciting time. And I'm so excited. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I am too. And I think to that point, because I can recall we've looked at this and thought, you know what? There are so many people that don't know about Pulse, despite the fact that obviously the community's very aware. There's so many people that just have no clue that this is coming. Yeah. And we're actually reaching out to certainly some of the, the liquidity guys, for example. So we'll be putting a press release out to those guys. I've sort of had a couple of interactions with Robert Luco. Certainly want to be able to go to him and say, guys, PulseChain, you guys must be sick of paying these crazy exorbitant fees. You have a massive community here that could benefit from using PulseChain. You guys are familiar with the protocol. Liquid loans is available. Yep. You may want to come across it. And the idea being that, hey, we don't just want to bring them over so that they can sell and leave. Right. We want to bring them over so that they can potentially offload their tokens, buy Pulse, and stay in our community and see the benefit of being here. And so that is a primary sort of motive for us to bring those communities over. And it's not just them, it's others that will come across as well. So that's the plan.
That's so great. That is so great. Well, it's good to get an update. I think that, a lot of times with software, it's like hurry up and wait, and you don't realize what's happening behind the scenes. And, a lot of times you don't know except what the developer tells you, right? Or the developing team does. And so, I've been in that world, and it's, people on the front side are always impatient, and, we obviously have to get this right. And I want to remind people, and if you don't mind speaking to this is an immutable contract. Like once you put it out, there's no messing with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's our challenge in that space, and that is, whilst the code's all but finished, we're obviously waiting on those key components for the price calls. We've also had to work through some other workarounds that, incidentally, I know some of our dev teams actually interacting with the PulseChain guys just around some elements that we've developed some workarounds for things that may be a bit helpful. And so we're doing that. We're also talking to other providers just to see if there's anything that we can do to collaborate to help with PulseChain. But it's quite a challenge. And from our point of view, we are not going to release this project until it's had not just one audit, we'll be doing 2 audits on the project. Obviously, there's beta testing, alpha and beta testing that we'll be doing internally, but we'll also actually we've commissioned one specific audit that is much more, that's the soup to nuts version of what we need. But we are doing some preliminary work as well. But ultimately, when we release this, the audit will actually be the premise for us to want to release it. And if there's any issues, we will not be releasing this project until it's completed. And as you can understand, because it's immutable, we can't change it. There's no admin keys on this thing that we can go back and turn it back. And that's not... and let's face it, the whole community loves that. Right. But that comes with a significant cost, and that is that you've got to get it right, So we'll do that. We'll definitely deliver the right outcome.
So you're saying, so there is a sacrifice phase. It is coming soon. We obviously don't know the date on that. In any sense of how long it will last? Do you know at this point, or?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question, because, we've obviously debated the time frame around this. I'm, without revealing too much, I'm not a big fan of very, very long periods of time for sacrifice. I think we'd rather sort of keep it tighter, but it's up for debate, right? So I can tell you one thing, though, it's not going to be less than 14 days. That'll be the minimum period, but we may extend it a bit further. We just have to work through some mechanics around that. What I can say, though, is people need to be ready, right? And remembering that we're asking people to sacrifice stable coins. So, and the rationale behind that is that we do not want to be receiving HEX. We're not going to be putting any sell pressure on HEX. We just want the stable coins being used as sacrifice. And the other thing that I should point out is, whilst we're accepting that from Ethereum, we're also going to accept stable coins from the Binance Smart Chain, because I think there's a lot of people that are actually that have stable coins on that chain that would like to sacrifice for this as well. So we will be accepting that, and it's coming soon. And just be prepared, just be ready.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and this is an exciting time. I mean, I'm just looking forward to, you're really the first, I almost feel like the first to market with a substantial product, but it's not just another token. It's an infrastructure piece that enables people not to sell. And so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to softball pitch you a question, because I know the answer to this question, but I want you to say it too, is that what happens to the price of a cryptocurrency when the people who hold it don't sell it?
Do you really need me to answer that?
I do. I want you to say it.
Yeah, well, number go up.
Right. Well, and that's what's so cool about community, right? And people I think have a hard time understanding that this Metcalfe's law and this idea that this is really actually a communication network. And what really creates value is agreement and community. And, I think once people realize that, they say, okay, hold on. So it is actually this strange cartel collusion thing that's going on that actually defines and creates and reaches consensus on value. And to me, it's a hard concept to understand, because people have been in this mindset of scarcity. They have been, I got to get mine at your expense. And this is a whole different paradigm. And to me, that's what's so neat about it, is educating people that, hey, no. If you win and I lose, you lose too. Yeah. We only win together. And so this idea of holding together and working together, and that's why, to me, this community is so good. And we need to embrace things and vet them, but we need to support them as well. So I just appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for doing it, because you're enabling me to never sell.
Yeah. Look, the only other thing that I wanted to mention, Matt, is we will have a referral program.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we're really excited about what we're doing in that space. And without going into all the details now, what I can tell you is typically with most referral programs, the people that use a referral link don't always benefit. It's the person that provides the link that generally benefits. That's not the case with our referral program. So anyone that actually is going to use the program gets an opportunity of benefiting from that. So we'll provide more detail closer to time, but we're really excited about what that's going to mean for people if they, and for us, we do want to reach as many people as possible, not just within the community, but outside the community. Yeah. And I think the referral program will help us to achieve that.
Well, and if you look back at the early days of HEX, I mean, you know, I had that interview with a hexologist, and he's like, hey, I have this referral link, and I think he said he didn't have the right digits in it. And so people could click out, but it didn't carry over the ID with it. And he's like, I don't know how much I missed out on, but you know, for a guy who was streaming 572 days in a row.
Oh my God.
But it is, I think it's a great approach because, you know, expanding and providing, it's all about incentive, right? And there are going to be people who are outside of our community who see this and go, hold on a second, this is a great way for me to kind of get into crypto. And I think that referral links are a great way of enticing people to say, wow, okay, this is worth me getting into. So that's great. And I love the fact that you're going to have on both sides the benefit, because you're right. It typically just benefits the person kind of in an upline scenario. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the hope, and we'll provide more detail closer to the time. But thank you for having me on today,
Matt.
Really
and thank you. Well, it's, I always like to tell people, I mean, had you not talked to Adam Stokes the way you did about HEX, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And it's cool. It's really neat to have you in the community. And I really wish you well. And I'm excited about the sacrifice. I'm excited about all the stuff. You guys are innovating as well. And, you know, I just constantly reminded that the only way we can win is together. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.